Is that splatter on the door frame?
Yes, like
Okay.
there's a dot right there.
Oh, wow.
You're a rude, cold, heartless murderer. That's what you are. Look at you. You have no defense for yourself.
This is 21-year-old Taylor Elkins, a mother of 2 children. In July 2019, she was arrested for the murder of 72-year-old retired teacher and Army veteran William DuBois Jr. in Fort Smith, Arkansas. However, the sheer brutality of the crime scene raised a lot of doubts. How could a young woman like Taylor overpower a man with military training like William? What was their true relationship? And what could have led to such a horrific act? Before we dive into the twisted details of this case, make sure to like and subscribe so you never miss any of our newest true crime stories. William Bill Joseph DuBois Jr. was born on May 13, 1947, in Fort Smith, Arkansas. As a devoted teacher, Bill taught English and history in the Fort Smith Public Schools from 1973 until his retirement in 2003, totaling 30 years of service. Even after retiring, he continued to contribute as a substitute teacher for an additional 16 years. Beyond his teaching career, Bill was a U.S. Army veteran who served during the Vietnam War. He was an active member of Christ the King Catholic Church and held significant roles in the Knights of Columbus, achieving both 3rd and 4th degree statuses and serving as a past Grand Knight and faithful navigator. Bill had been married to Susan DuBois for 44 years, and together they had 2 children. They lived in separate houses, but still supported each other. Bill's family remembers him as a loving husband, father, and grandfather who had a great passion for teaching and a deep commitment to his faith. At 72 years old, Bill had several health problems. Recently, he had suffered a stroke, so his neighbors grew serious concern when they hadn't seen him for 2 or 3 days. And his door was locked. On July 11, 2019, they called the police for a wellness check. Officers quickly arrived at Bill's home and first spoke with his neighbor who lived in the next apartment of the duplex.
Good. Him? He's not answering?
Not anything, but I was laying in my bed the other night, and I can't remember what time it was. I heard something fall.
The neighbor worried that something bad had happened to Bill when he's alone at night, maybe another stroke. But there was another alarming detail.
Does he have a car?
Yeah, a car, but
Where's his car?
his car's been gone for 2 or 3 days.
Well, maybe he's gone. Okay.
He haven't told us.
Okay.
He would told us.
Okay.
After checking the front door and making sure they couldn't enter that way, officers decided to look through the side windows. As they moved closer to the direction of his bedroom, something peculiar caught their attention.
Yeah, I'm getting it. Yeah, right here. I know that smell.
The smell of decomposition drifted from the air conditioning unit, heavy and unmistakable. The officers exchanged a grim look. They knew exactly what they were about to uncover. Both the front and back doors were locked tight. No easy way in, no broken windows, and no signs of forced entry. Without giving up on reaching Bill, the officers contacted his property manager, who had a key to the residence. The manager quickly arrived on the scene and let them in. Because of Bill's history of strokes and poor health, they initially feared he had passed away from natural causes. However, when entering his apartment, they quickly realized his death was far from natural. The overpowering smell of decomposition filled the air as Bill's lifeless body was found lying in the bathroom. 27 distinct impact marks were visible on his head, evidence of a brutal attack. His hands clutched clumps of human hair, one sign of a desperate fight for survival. The blood around his body was quickly swabbed for evidence, and the hair from his hands was collected for DNA testing. Bill's body was then sent to the Arkansas State Crime Lab for a full autopsy. Meanwhile, officers continued their search of the apartment, which was in complete disarray. Bill's valuables were missing: 2 TVs, his gold lieutenant bar, wallet, and other personal items. It seemed clear that this was a robbery gone wrong. However, during their investigation, officers discovered something very curious. The front door had been locked from the outside, and there were no signs of forced entry. The only way that could happen was if the attacker had a key. In other words, this wasn't the work of some random intruder. Whoever did this knew Bill personally. The most stood-out lead at that point was Bill's car, a red Ford Focus, which was now missing. Police believed that the murderer might have taken the car to flee, or perhaps it was targeted in the robbery itself. Whoever had the vehicle now could undoubtedly be the key to solve the case. However, the officers had no idea where to start searching, until William's son arrived at the scene and provided a major breakthrough. He shared that Bill had suffered a stroke not long ago, which affected his cognitive functions, causing frequent confusion. To help him stay safe, Bill's wife Susan DuBois, who was a retired nurse, took it upon herself to care for him. Worried that he might become disoriented while driving, Susan planted a GPS tracking device in his car, a decision that turned out to be pivotal to the investigation. Without any delay, authorities came to Susan and asked her to help track down Bill's vehicle.
Hi, Miss Susan. I'm Officer Hendricks. I'm sorry meeting you under...
I can tell by the way you're acting that you've already been notified, okay? First of all, we're very sorry for your loss, okay? You want to sit down for a minute? Okay, all right. Okay.
It might be better on your...
Here's our biggest issue we have right now. The car is missing.
Oh no!
Yes.
Yep.
Where's your tracker? Do you have a tracker on that car?
Yes.
Okay.
Her phone, right here.
Susan quickly opened an app on her phone and showed them a map on the screen. It pointed out exactly where the red Ford Focus was parking, at the 4400 block of Armour Street, just 10 minutes away from Bill's house. The officers immediately kicked into overdrive, rushing to the location. This place was known to locals as a trap house, a residence notorious for drug activity and trafficking. Upon arrival, they instantly spotted Bill's red Ford Focus parked outside. They knew they were in the right place and began questioning the residents there immediately. Several of them pointed to 21-year-old Taylor Elkins, a mother of two, as the person currently in possession of Bill's car. Police quickly apprehended her and placed her in the back of a squad car. After confirming Taylor's identity and running a background check, they discovered she had a history of petty misdemeanors, but no prior record of violent offenses. They attempted an informal interview on the scene, but Taylor was uncooperative and difficult to communicate with, slurring her words and showing signs of heavy intoxication. It was later confirmed that she was high on multiple substances during the interaction.
Where'd you get parked in? I already told him. It's a say of road. But they let me park. There's Sean Val's house. Why are back?
After that, Bill's red Ford Focus was transported to the police department for further examination. Meanwhile, Taylor Elkins was arrested and charged with theft by receiving. On July 15, 2019, Taylor was brought into the interrogation room at the Sebastian County Detention Center for questioning.
I'm really not looking at her as being the perpetrator. She's not a real big girl. I don't consider her to be that strong, so I'm thinking myself, she's covering for someone else.
Initially, Taylor gave police an address, claiming she got the car from a man named Sean. However, after checking records and asking around, they found that no one linked to her had that first name. Sean didn't exist. Confused, the detectives suspected that Taylor might still be under the influence of alcohol or drugs. They decided to press her again, and this time she revealed something unthinkable about the true nature of her and Bill's relationship. Taylor claimed that Bill let her borrow his car because she's his sugar baby. She came by and asked for the car on Monday, but he needed it for the day, so he gave her the keys on Tuesday. At this point, Taylor became visibly emotional and started to cry, clearly overwhelmed by the situation. Seeing that, the detective decided to try a more sympathetic approach. He said he knew she's a decent person who had a heart, a soul, and it's understandable that she's hurting. When she began to calm down, he knew his tactic worked and asked her to start recounting the events from the beginning. After struggling for a while, Taylor finally talked.
So then do me a favor. Let's start from that Tuesday evening when all this started. Where'd you go? And what'd you do as soon as you got to the casino? What else you did at the casino?
I guess.
What else did you do?
Taylor's story suddenly took a darker turn. She claimed that after getting in Bill's car, she went to a casino and met a man named Joe, who was desperate for cash. The two devised a plan to rob Bill, because Taylor knew he had money. According to Taylor, they went to Bill's residence, where Joe knocked on the door. When Bill opened it, Joe rushed inside and pulled the door closed behind him, leaving Taylor outside. She waited nearby at a local McDonald's while Joe carried out the robbery. When Taylor returned, Joe had already loaded 2 of Bill's TVs into his vehicle, along with other stolen items. Then they drove to a nearby pawn shop, where Joe pawned the TVs for cash.
I kept asking what happened. Because I had a little part in it, so I was scared, I didn't want to go in there or nothing. I didn't know what happened. And I kept asking him what happened. He kept telling me that he took care of it, that it's okay, that he finished the blah, and nothing will come about it. So I did not kill that man. I'm not a killer. I'm so far from a killer out there. I'm just a addict. That's it.
However, something didn't sit right with the detectives. Taylor's story kept changing. At first, she said that Joe knocked on Bill's door, but later admitted it was her who knocked. At one point, she said Joe made her help load the TVs into the car, but at other times, she claimed that the TVs were already in the car when she arrived. Given her previous lies, the detectives began questioning the credibility of every word Taylor said. They realized that they couldn't rely on her version of events without confirming the details. To get to the truth, they knew they had to find this Joe first. Unlike Sean, Joe turned out to be a real person. Following Taylor's information, detectives were able to locate and arrest Joe on drug charges. Joe adamantly denied any connection to Bill DuBois, claiming he didn't know him and had never been to his residence. However, during his questioning, Joe provided crucial information about Taylor Elkins that helped push the investigation forward.
Where'd y'all meet up at? Casino. She had 2 TVs in the back of her car trying to sell them, so why is she trying to get rid of her TVs? She said she had to pay rent or electrical or something. So she talked to you about pawning some TVs? Yes, sir.
Joe stated that it was Taylor, not him, who had robbed Bill's TVs. He further revealed that one of his friends, Pete, had agreed to help pawn the TVs for Taylor. Using a local pawn shop activity database, detectives tracked down Pete, the 2 TVs, and the pawn shop where the transaction had occurred. Officers visited the pawn shop and reviewed surveillance footage, confirming that Pete had indeed pawned the TVs. When Pete was brought in for questioning, he initially seemed reluctant to cooperate, worried that he'd be charged for pawning stolen items. However, under pressure in the interrogation room, Pete finally agreed to tell the truth.
Where did you get those TVs at? I got those TVs from a girl named Taylor Elkins. Okay, and how do you know Taylor? I just knew her as a mutual friend. She told me she didn't have an ID or something and that they weren't stolen or anything like that. And she, told me to go pawn them. Okay, so I did.
Both Joe and Pete claimed they had no idea the TVs were stolen. Joe insisted that he was just helping a friend, while Pete admitted he was just hoping to make a quick buck. To determine whether Joe and Pete were truly uninvolved, detectives analyzed their GPS data. According to the location history on their phones, neither of them had been near Bill's apartment at the estimated time of the crime. This left Taylor as the only person near Bill's home during the time of the murder. However, there was one more person nearby, Bill's neighbor, the same man who had heard a strange noise that night. While reviewing Taylor's records, investigators made a shocking discovery. She had previously lived at the same address as the neighbor. As it turned out, he was Taylor's grandfather. This new information made Taylor's grandfather a key witness, and he was brought in for questioning.
Something with your granddaughter, Taylor. Okay, what about her? Well, what kind of relationship or involvement with Bill did she have? Bill, your dead neighbor. Oh, hi, bye, something like that? Or maybe he was just on the phone or something? I don't know.
He confirmed that Taylor had stayed at his house on Tuesday night and was still there when he went to bed. He recounted waking up later to a loud noise but didn't think much of it at the time. He lay awake, listening, but eventually fell back asleep. When he woke up early the next morning, Taylor was gone, and so was Bill's car. Detectives grew suspicious that he might be covering for his granddaughter, so they asked him to take a polygraph test. He refused and ultimately confessed that their theory was correct. He was trying to protect Taylor. That's when he revealed the most important information. Taylor had returned to his apartment that night, immediately changed out of her clothes, and hid them in the house. The investigators immediately launched a thorough search at the apartment and found said clothes in a pile of laundry with visible blood stains on them. They collected the clothes and sent them to the state crime lab for further analysis. Meanwhile, Taylor was subjected to a polygraph test of her own. The damning results came shortly. It showed clear signs of deception, especially at the question if she was present when Bill was attacked, and even stronger reaction when asking if she killed Bill. However, Taylor stuck to her story, insisting that she's innocent. The detectives, growing frustrated with her inconsistencies, didn't hold back any longer. They confronted her directly, but instead of cooperating, Taylor became increasingly defensive and sarcastic, further escalating the tension in the room.
Because you're just getting on my nerves right now. I'm not in the mood today. I've had...
Well, I really don't give a shit if you're in the mood or not.
Of course you don't.
All right?
You're a rude person.
I'm not a rude person.
Yes, you are.
You're a rude, cold, heartless murderer. That's
No,
what
I'm
you
not.
are.
No, I'm not.
Look at you. You have no defense for yourself.
I'm not, though.
Because you killed the old man.
No, I didn't. I know what I'm capable of. I'm not
Yeah, you're capable of that. You're right in the middle of all of it. And why you don't think you think you're so tough?
I told y'all what happened.
You ain't told us nothing. You make up everything to point the finger at everybody else.
But I don't.
You do, 100%.
No, I don't.
After this explosive confrontation, Taylor refused to say anything else, continuing to claim she was innocent. Detectives had enough and escorted her back to her cell, where she would remain until her court proceedings began. In the following days, an unexpected development arose. One of Taylor's fellow inmates contacted the Fort Smith Police Department, claiming to have critical information about the case.
So let's start from the beginning. I mean, tell me what she's told you about how this.
I can't know what happened. She said, well, you know, it started out as a rubber gun wrong. She had dealt with him before, but it was never for pills. He didn't have pills. It was for money.
The inmate said Taylor admitted she was high that night, and she went over Bill's house, just intending to rob him. At that moment, Bill was in his underwear and about to go to bed. She asked him for money, but he didn't have any. She got mad and hit him with a hammer 36 times. This statement seemed like the final nail in the coffin for Taylor. However, since it came from another inmate, detectives knew they needed hard evidence to support the claim. Fortunately, it came very shortly with the forensic results. The crime lab confirmed that the blood on Taylor's clothes belonged to Bill, and the hair found in Bill's hand matched Taylor's DNA. Despite the absence of the murder weapon, the blood evidence was enough to prove Taylor's direct involvement in the murder. On October 9, 2019, Taylor Elkins was officially charged with first-degree murder in the death of William "Bill" DuBois Jr. Rather than pursuing the death penalty, the state prosecutor asked Bill's wife if she would consider offering Taylor a plea deal. Surprisingly, Susan wholeheartedly agreed, believing that justice didn't require execution. She simply wanted to close this painful chapter.
I said to her first off, and I've said this since the day that we found Bill dead, is that I don't hate her because my Christian beliefs won't allow it.
In the end, Taylor accepted the plea deal, sparing herself a trial and the possibility of the death penalty. With overwhelming evidence against her, it was her only chance to reduce her sentence and avoid life without parole. In her final confession, Taylor Elkins admitted that it was her plan to rob Bill, but not to kill him. On the night of Tuesday, July 9, 2019, she went to his apartment alone. When Bill told her he didn't have any cash, Taylor grew angry and hit him on the head with a hammer. The attack escalated, resulting in Bill's brutal death. On January 15, 2020, Taylor was sentenced to 40 years in prison, with the possibility of parole after 28 years. She is currently serving her sentence at the McPherson Women's Unit in Newport, Arkansas. For Bill's family, after months of waiting for justice, there was finally some closure. Susan, Bill's wife, showed remarkable strength and grace throughout the ordeal, choosing forgiveness and healing over revenge. After the tragic murder, the entire town came together to honor Bill DuBois with a heartfelt funeral, and he was laid to rest at the Fort Smith National Cemetery with full military honors. What do you think about this case? How far can desperation or addiction push someone? And do you think Taylor should have been given a second chance through parole? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you have any cases you'd like us to cover, don't hesitate to suggest them. And remember to like, share, and subscribe for more true crime stories. As always, stay safe, and thank you for watching.